and welcome back to the channel. My name is Kiran. I'm a junior doctor and a comedian working in Manchester. Today I am joined by one of my best friends, Kiran, who has just returned from being a doctor in Australia. And we are talking about everything to do with being a doctor in Australia. And in this video, we're talking about some of the disadvantages. We've already talked about some of the great things, the pay, the beaches, the lifestyle, all of that good stuff. Why might you not want to go?
Now that is a good question, because a lot of people think that you're gonna go out, travel all the time, you're barely ever gonna work, you're gonna get paid really well. If you wanna be able to go and travel around Australia, get a travel visa and travel. Earn your money however you want to fund it, through your salary, take some time out to locum if you're taking an F3 year, let's say, and then go and travel around Australia. If you're going out to work, you will be spending most of your days working. I think that's one of the disadvantages that people don't realize until they get there. Though I'm not sure why, because you're on a work visa. For me, the major thing was friends and family is so distant. So the time differences between when I was in Melbourne, I was 17 hours ahead of my sister and about between 10 and 11 hours ahead of my parents as well. So it made it really difficult for everybody to catch up. You're leaving your friends, and again, you can only really catch up with them on FaceTime or call infrequently, and that can really take its toll despite all the new friends that you may make when you're there. If you're there for a temporary amount of time, like I was, then it's quite manageable. If it's permanent, then I know that a lot of people will start to miss their friends and family back home.
You can't really just pop home, really. It's not like it's not like going to France.
How long do you think the journey
like
was? Door to door.
Door to door to Australia.
Yeah, my return journey to get back here.
Maybe 24 hours?
30.
30 hours.
And that wasn't a long layover. That was a 2.5 hour layover.
It's also very, very expensive. It's even if you wanted to come back for something, you're going to be paying a lot to come back and forth. You're losing a day either side.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the annual leave and the traveling and things like that. So yeah, the annual leave is slightly different there, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's another negative, the way you look at it. It really depends on what you want. For most people, I think it's, for what we're used to, it's a negative. In Australia, you have your 4 terms of work split into 3 months in a year. Out of your 4 terms, you'll most likely, as a house officer, you'll get 3 medical or surgical terms, and the final term will be a relieving term where you fill the gaps wherever they need you to fill. Mostly your holiday, your rota coordinator will put your holiday within that relieving term, and they put it all together as one block. So you, instead of being able to take annual leave, little bits here and there, you have to take your 4 or 5 weeks all combined together.
So you can't say, for example, you're in Melbourne, you can't go, I want to spend a week in Cairns and go diving.
You would have to fight for it. It's not common.
Okay.
The thing that's most common is you have your relieving, and within that relieving term, you take your 5 weeks of holiday, and then you go and explore for your 5 weeks.
Can you match that with your friends? Are you able to request for that to be at the same time as when your friends are?
So you can request for it at the same time as your friends. They might have to put you all on relieving terms together. I have heard that, and I know of some people that have been partners, for example, they've been put on the same rota. So mostly this only happens in the emergency department, but they're put on the same rota, so they have the same days off and the same days on together. So they're always working together. That can be, great.
Quite great.
bit intense for some, I could imagine. Good luck to them. Can Sam overhear you?
Yeah, she can. She's getting ready in the next room.
It would be lovely, and you'd love to do that.
I would really enjoy to work with Sam every day. Do you want to come in the video?
Let me get in. Hello.
Okay,
Hello, everyone.
So we talked about.
I have nothing to add to this.
You actually do. Would you like? The question is, we were talking about the Australian doctors, and if you're working there, you can work on the same rotas. Would you like to work the same shifts as Kiran? So let's say you work together, you live together, you go to work in the same car together, you work the same ward round together, you see the same patients together, you have lunch together, you have coffees at work together. You then take the same car home together, and then you come back home, you eat together. You enjoy the evening together. Repeat forever.
You answer it first.
I was just about to say Kiran could answer that first.
I feel like it's probably a bit much.
It is a bit much.
It's nice to have your own thing.
I think
and then...
I think we value obviously spending time together, and if it was all the time, we probably wouldn't value it as much. So no is the answer.
Talking about the disadvantages, we talked about the annual leave, we talked about how bloody far it is.
Yes.
Is there any other reasons why someone might from the UK think, nah, don't want to go there?
Yeah, the relieving terms,
Other than the
I think,
fact that you might be there.
the relieving terms are pretty bad. So I would say a lot of people don't enjoy them because you're a dog's body. You get put wherever the rotor coordinators need you.
You're what, sorry?
A dog's body.
A dog's body.
Yeah, what do you think I said?
I don't know. It's just not a phrase I use very much. Carry on.
The major disadvantage is, in terms of work, is about the relieving. On the relieving term, that's 3 months of your life where you'll just be put where the rotor coordinators need you. Ideally, they want you to cover. If someone goes off for 5 weeks, they'll put you there to cover 5 weeks. But let's say you are on a general rotation for your medical, for your year, you're doing medicine, well, somebody from neurosurgery is taking 5 weeks off, you're gonna go and do neurosurgery for 5 weeks.
Oh my God.
That's like an ideal situation. What actually happens is they'll put you on that for 1 week and then they say, okay, now we need you for 2 weeks to cover plastics. We need you on ICU for 4 weeks and we need you in the ED for 5 weeks.
Oh my God.
And so then you're constantly rotating. You don't have any of your logins for any of the different places. You need speciality knowledge, even though yes, you can do the job. We all know the process that you go through. When you start the job, you're finding your feet, you then start to become more confident and finally you're competent at it, but that really takes 3 to 4 months to be able to work through that process and you're just thrown in there.
Can you say, no, I don't feel confident at neurosurgery, for example?
So
like, I don't want to do that.
I think you could. I've heard rotor coordinators trying their best to fit that around, but sometimes if you're on a surgical medical officer year and you're getting rotated through your reliever time around surgical jobs, then you just have to take it and go.
So abnormal work shifts, lack of annual leave, and very far away
from friends and family. Yeah. In certain parts, it's very tropical. In the north, in the desert, in more rural parts, it's pretty hot. If you don't like the heat, then you might not like
then
it there.
Get out the kitchen.
For sure, certainly so.
By the kitchen, we mean Australia.
But yeah, there was one junior I worked with when he was in Brisbane. He didn't own jumpers or trousers. He just was shorts and tees because it was just warm.
Nudist.
All the time. he didn't practice it very well.
He was kicked out and had his APRA registration taken away very quickly.
But yeah, that's
very hot.
Yep, that's odd. And if you want to stay, then there's a whole process that's the difficult process of to get your residency, to try and aim for permanent residency, to get onto a training program for some is particularly competitive on Australia, and especially in the centres that are more desirable than others, then it's even more competitive than that. The rotations that people on formal training programs, so for example my plastics registrars they were working in Melbourne and rotated around Melbourne, but then for the next year one of them was going to have to rotate to Tasmania, which for those of you that don't know is a beautiful place, beautiful, stunning. If you wanted to be in Melbourne, it's not Melbourne, it's an island that is a flight away. Depends how long it is, a couple of hours maybe on a flight. So that's quite difficult to commute home. You've got to move there for a year.
Does being in Australia affect your chances of getting into training here? Does that cause problems?
It depends which training you're aiming for. So for some, they find it desirable, and for others, they don't. If you have a look at your registrar post-training, because those are the ones where you get negatively penalised, and for certain specialities, orthopedics, I know, general surgery, I believe, also does this, that after a certain amount of time between your foundation training and applying for your ST3 registrar post, if you take too many years to do it, you'll then start getting negatively marked on your application for interview. You're expected that if you are going to take that time out, you should be getting extra publications, extra presentations, extra quips, extra audits to boost your CV, to make it more competitive and not skew it, to make that mandatory compared to people who are just coming straight through.
So that's kind of just like taking years out in general. That's not necessarily going to Australia, is it? That's if you took that many years out, then you look at
exactly.
That
it's not a deficiency of Australia itself. If you're wanting to buy a house, it's incredibly expensive to buy houses. In Australia, I'd say the prices are London-esque, particularly in Sydney. If you want to live that myth that we busted before, but you want to be by Bondi Beach, then it's unbelievably expensive. That one myth that we busted. If you actually did work at the Prince of Wales, which is located in Sydney, on the eastern beaches, that hospital, then you probably could. You live in Bondi, but buying there is going to be incredibly expensive. The other thing is the obvious one. How did I not forget? Everything kills you there.
Okay.
All the animals want to kill you. So you think Let's say you want to go in the water in Queensland, up past, towards Cairns. Fantastic. Well, you can't go in because of the saltwater crocodiles. No problem. You go off to the reef, which is a couple of miles off. Well, you might have an issue there because you've got the irukandji jellyfish, which will kill you, and you've got the sharks. If you then say, right, I don't want to go near any water source, I want to go into the desert, spiders and snakes. Venomous.
Basically everything.
They'll kill you.
Basically anywhere you go, everything wants to kill you.
Yeah.
If you're enjoying the series so far, make sure you subscribed and check out the rest of the videos about becoming a doctor in Australia, and make sure you watch this one next. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.